To order. Do you have, everybody's got an agenda? Let's see.
Cool.
I guess there's not some, but everybody's got a copy of an agenda. Okay, so attending and viewing the meeting, the public can attend the meeting in person. The meeting is also streamed on the library's YouTube channel, and a recording is made available after the meeting at the city's website. We have a public comment period. Any community member is invited to address the board. Is there any community member here to do that? Okay. Call to order, roll call. Can't see without these. Craig?
Here.
Angela?
Yeah.
Steve?
Here.
Laurel?
Here.
Teresa?
Present.
And Nick is here too. Reports, oh, the agenda. Can I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
We moved and seconded, and all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, it's been approved. Updates and reports, the Library Foundation report.
Up to the table, to the table. Thank you. Well, I am here in place of Brenda, who is participating in the Ready to Lead program. So anyway, it's my pleasure to be here. My name is Joanne Rosner. I'm the current president of the foundation. So it's fun to see so many of you, and I know actually all of you except Steve. I think you're the only one I don't know in this group, but you and I did have an opportunity to chat.
Keep it that way.
Okay. Anyway, I wanted to give you a brief update. I think some of this information might have been in your packet. Clearly, this last month was focused on WIT, our WIT event, and we raised or netted $29,000, so we were very pleased with that. And I know there were some of the library board members and staff that attended, so we certainly want to thank you for attending and for your support. It's our big signature event, so it's important for us to make sure that we include as many people as we do. You know, the WIT is more than just fundraising. While it's great to raise money, I think I would be remiss to not comment on the importance of advocacy and what that event does. We choose to hold it at the library. That does limit the number of people that can attend. However, it gets them in the library, so it makes for a really good opportunity for them to see the library, to see the changes and all that's going on. So anyway, we're real pleased with how that event went. What's unusual is that we do a survey. So after the event, we did a survey. That's not something that a lot of organizations do after their galas or big events, but Brenda has initiated that, and so we got a fairly good response to that, and we got a lot of feedback, a lot of comments. Overall, it was very positive, but we still had some comments that will give us something to talk about and ways that we can improve it going forward. So there'll be more to come on that for next year. In general, I will say that the library location is important, so people like that. But on the other hand, there also was openness to having it somewhere else. But obviously for us to hold it here at the library, I think is most meaningful. So most likely that's what we'll continue to do. So most people felt that the event met their expectations, so you can't argue against that. Most people said they would return again, so having repeat business is always a good sign that you've met their expectations. So anyway, generally happy with the event, so we're pleased that that went well. And I think Brenda included some photos in your pack. Did you see some photos? So you saw all of that. So, and like I said, many of you were there. Now the other thing I wanted to talk about was Library Week. Library Week is coming up. You know the dates, right? National Library Week is April 7th through the 13th. So I thought it would be a good idea to challenge the foundation board members to see how much money we can raise, which would also help to raise awareness. So whether that's done through individual donations or through putting something, a fundraiser out on Facebook, like people do for a birthday fundraiser. And the winner of who brings in the most money will have bragging rights. So we thought that was a pretty good reason for them to raise money. And then I also agreed that I would take them out to lunch. So hopefully we have a good challenge there. But I didn't want to stop there. I thought it would be useful to bring it to you. I'd really like to challenge the library board to also participate in a fundraiser for National Library Week. And then wouldn't it be fun to see which board could raise the most? And again, bragging rights is probably the the award that you might get, but again, I just think it's good for both of our boards to be out there spreading the word and doing things that make people more aware of what we do and raise some money along the way. So you can think about that, and then Karen, you can let me know, or Nick, you can let me know what your decision is. We'll be sharing that with our board members in the next week or so. The other thing, and I just should have brought it up here, new business cards. We have just had these made. Nicole designed these for us. We were really thrilled about that. These are cards that on the front, on one side, it says board member with contact information, and then on the other side, it has some QR codes to give some information. And I felt it would be important for board members to have a business card, rather than just give their normal business card to someone that says, gee, I'd like to know more about the library, or I'd like to get involved, I'd like to volunteer, or I'd like to make a donation, or whatever the case might be, rather than just give a scrap piece of paper with their name on it, which I did at WIT when someone wanted some information, so that's how we exchanged contact information. But I thought this would be a good way for us to use that. And it really can be used by anyone. If you're not a board member, now this would work for you as well, but if it was friends or a volunteer, they could just cross that out and still put their contact information. So, for example, I'm attending the chamber event with Brenda that's coming up, and I thought, I want some of these in my pocket, so as I meet people, maybe they want to donate an auction item or whatever, I just think it's real useful, and it gets the name of the library out there. So I wanted to share that with you. And I think that's all I have for a report, unless anybody has questions.
Any questions? Comments? Okay, thank you, Joe.
You're very welcome. I'm so glad I had a chance to come, and I'll probably make it a habit when I'm not traveling.
Thanks, Joe.
Yep.
Thank you.
Now a report from the Friends.
Okay, so what's the protocol? I sit at the table?
It doesn't matter.
Okay. I don't know. So my name is Dee Voldahl, and I am here in Val's stead. I am the treasurer on the Friends Board and the management team for the bookstore. So I have just a couple of things from the Friends. Most recently, we had our Winterfest book sale in the auditorium, which was very successful. We had a net profit of $7,400. We get a lot of positive feedback from that. We make a lot of money, and we get a lot of community people who come in and appreciate being able to buy some really good books at some really cheap prices. So that's good, and that $7,400 is enough to cover about half of the money we have pledged to the youth services programming for this year. And I know Val likes to quantify that when we have these big sales, to give an idea of what that covers, what we can pay for with that. So, and the next auditorium sale will be June 20th through the 23rd. And so we're already packing books up for that. And then in January, we had our annual membership meeting. Good attendance for that. We celebrated our 75th anniversary of the Friends organization and had a presentation with some really fun slides throughout the history of the Friends. And really celebrated our the way that we contribute to the library, and 3 prongs of that are volunteers. The statistics, which are in your packet, that over 200 volunteers provided almost 20,000 volunteer hours of direct assistance, as well as managing the whole donation process. Materials that go straight to the library circulation that come in through those donated materials that the library doesn't have to buy or spend the staff time associated with buying. And then just the money we flat out raised from those auditorium sales, from our online sales, from memberships, from donations. Last year we funded $79,000 worth of materials and programs and incentives, and this year we pledged $80,000. So we celebrated all of that at our membership meeting. The other prong of the Friends is the bookstore, which has separate accounting. And we also had, we presented a check to the library from the profits from the Friends store in 2023. And Sandy George is also on the management team.
How about if I just stand here? Are you done with your part?
I'm done with my part.
Questions for just the Friends in
Oh,
general
yeah.
before I talk about the bookstore?
Any questions?
So I am Sandy George, and I'm also one of the managers in the bookstore. And I'm just gonna do a quick summary of 2023 and from the bookstore's point of view. So we finally settled on a schedule. Hi. After COVID, it took us a while to get in, but we got a set schedule in the bookstore now. We're open 6 days a week, Monday through Thursday, 11 in the morning till 6 at night, and then Fridays and Saturdays, we have a shortened schedule, 11 to 2. In 2023, we had 61 active volunteers working in the bookstore. Anywhere from 1 day a month to 1 day a week and more. And the exciting part is we had 15 new volunteers. So people are really coming back, and we encourage, if you know anybody that's looking for a great volunteer job, the bookstore is great. 61 individuals worked in the store, and 15 were new last year.
So 61 plus 15. Or-
The 61 includes.
Includes,
Oh.
yep. So, in the bookstore last year, we had 3 all-store sales. Those might have been a BOGO sale, buy one, get one, or half price. We also participated in the downtown Small Business Saturday event, which was very successful also. We always have a good turnout on that Saturday after Thanksgiving. We had 5 lobby sales. Sometimes we have too much inventory. We can't sell it all in the store, so we take over the lobby right in front with some carts and tables very carefully. And those were very successful also. I want to put a thank you to some individuals. Pat Stevenson, who works upstairs pricing and doing online sales, and Nan Free really help us with those lobby sales and help get some special inventory out there. So those were very successful this year also. And another place that we also get our money from is the black box. If you've been at the circulation desk, there's a little donation box there. People can donate money, or the purpose is to buy items from the bookstore while the store is closed. Right at the back door of our store are a couple of giant racks that we leave out. People can buy mostly jigsaw puzzles off of there. And the glass case right inside the front doors has our inventory also. And last year, that black box brought in $2,796. We don't know how much of it was from just dropping in your change versus buying a jigsaw puzzle, but it all got rung up in our bookstore sales. With all those sales, the lobby sales, all-store sales, the black box, we pay sales tax, insurance, few supplies, our great volunteers. This was the check we were able to present at the last annual meeting, $70,000. So, we're pretty happy with that. Everything is is donated. We get great donations from this community, and all of our time is donated. So Karen's already posed for the picture a few times.
Yes,
So,
yeah, multiple
Yeah.
times.
Yeah.
My favorite.
so,
duties.
any questions about the bookstore?
All right, thank you.
Thank
Thank you both.
Thank you.
Thank you. Went on to 5D, Planning Committee update. Well, the meetings that we had on January 22 and February 9th have led into the draft RFP that we have. The January 22 meeting, we sat down without having written anything and started to discuss what we wanted the RFP to show. And we discussed the anticipated deliveries of this study. The team agreed that a facilities and operations master plan is the end deliverable. And we also emphasized the need for community input, and we discussed how we were going to do that. And the sentiment was that we were going to rely on the consultant to do a lot of work to get that happening. It was important to, we discussed the fact that it was important to explain the community needs and not just focus on space constraints, although that is a pretty important element. We need to mention space in the context of community needs. We also discussed accessibility / parking. Mayo is unique, why? Well, we all know that, but let's see what the consultant says about this. The RFP is actually kind of light on that factor. We know what I'm talking about. Starts with an L. Ends with an O. So I'm curious about what the applicants, how they'll come across for that important element. The group suggested sharing benchmark data for the library. Some states have specific space recommendations in relationship to public libraries, but I don't think Minnesota does not. Okay. ALA used to, American.
Right, and they no longer.
When did they drop that?
Oh.
I remember years
No,
ago.
I want to say 2003.
Okay, so it's been a long
while.
time, okay, so we're kind of on our own with it. We have no standards per se. So then the February 9th, we sat down with the draft of the RFP. Everybody on the planning committee had a copy. We had one draft, I guess that's the one on the bottom I have here, and then after our discussions, we had another one generated. And we reviewed the RFP and suggested edits. We focused more on adding in data, having longer data trend lines than we had in the tables. And I see this phrase, and center equity. What does that mean?
Which was discussed heavily at City Council last night, or on Monday at their study session, really focusing on making sure that equity is at the center, that folks feel welcomed, included,
Okay.
or making sure that accessibility is centered, that often underrepresented voices are heard throughout the process, and in the actual final plan, it's obvious and part of the final
Okay,
plan.
so that'll be a central element.
Yeah.
And then it was important to articulate that print is still important because we do have a small little red drop in circulation. I think it's apparently due to the uptick in electronic checkouts, but still the physical books for the past year it's like 1,200,000 something. Am I right? Okay, well, that's a lot.
There's
So
still a
it's
lot of
still
materials.
important.
Yes.
Okay. So this RFP will be presented to the city council on March 25th? Is that the date? Okay.
Yes.
All right. And then after we get the council's comments and recommendations, we're going to have another special board meeting to discuss that input. And that special board meeting would be on April 3rd. And I think you looked into the rules and regulations, and the chair can simply call such a meeting. We don't need a,
Yes,
okay.
yes.
But of course, we need to make sure we'll have enough people at the meeting. April 3rd, that's a Wednesday. Will that work for everyone, or do you know at this point if it would? It's kind of a little bit down the line.
I won't be back yet.
You won't be back yet. Can't turn the ship around.
It's on the way back, it's not bad.
You can't make it go fast.
No, I can't.
So anyway, maybe if you want to check your schedules and maybe get back to me about that.
Yeah, I should know in a week or so.
Okay,
I might be out of town, but that's not confirmed.
because we can't do it on April 3rd. That would be the most ideal time to do it.
I thought you said April 3rd was that.
April 3rd?
Is what he wants.
Yeah, that's a Wednesday, isn't it?
That's fine for me.
Okay. No, not for you.
Out of town. That's a spring break.
Well, why don't you send me what you, when you, I mean, it's still a little bit down the road, but when you know, send me something to let me know. And if we don't have a quorum, we'll just have to figure something else out.
It
Okay.
sounds like we won't have quorum just based on this.
Yeah. Well,
Would pick another day since we're all here with
Yeah.
our.
Would probably just mean moving it to the regular meeting and adjusting our timeline to reflect that. I mean, it really is, we are the owners and creators of this timeline, so if we don't have a special meeting, it just means adjusting our timeline for approving the RFP and publishing it, which is fine.
Right.
It's,
it's not gonna delay us too much, is it? I
it's
don't
just
have
a
it.
couple of weeks, really,
Okay.
so.
All right, and what day is that? That's April what? I don't have a calendar.
17.
Thank you.
17. Okay. Would April 17, as far as you know, work? Yeah, that's a better date. Okay. All right, so let's just pin down April 7th. That's the regular meeting. We'll put that on the agenda. Okay. All right. Any questions on that?
And we'll talk about actually more in reports and
Yes.
recommendations.
Executive committee update, well, basically, when we met in February, produced the agenda that you have now that we're operating under. Our discussions regarding the March meeting, pretty much the same, except the other business is the JEDI audit, the Justice, Equity, Diversity, Inclusion presentation, and the equity plan update, which we'll review. And we will review the RFP and presentation outline for the March 25th City Council study session. Of course, you'll be there. I plan to be there March 25th, so if anybody else wants to come, you're more than welcome. All right. Moving on, the consent agenda, we have items 6A to 6D. Can I have a motion to approve those items?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second?
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's been passed.
Okay, can I just note,
Yes.
it's a small matter.
Sure.
I was absent for the January 17th meeting, and that's not reflected.
Okay.
Actually, my existence is not reflected, but I'm not taking that personally.
All right.
We will make that edit, because you exist.
All right, reports and recommendations. The RFP, Facilities Operations Master Plan Study. You wanna discuss them for a while?
Yeah, so we wanted to give an opportunity to let you look at the RFP itself and see if there were any feedback and reflections that you all had before we meet again as a planning committee in a couple of weeks. And then this document will go to the city council for the study session to hear feedback, and then we would approve the final RFP. You would approve the final RFP in the April meeting. So we will adjust the timeline to reflect that. So there are still opportunities to provide some feedback, but just initial thoughts or feedback on what you read through. All right.
I think you've incorporated most of the changes that the planning committee articulated, so.
We have a really great committee, by the way. We do have county representation, city representation, library board, and library staff. So it's a nice mix, and getting some good feedback from some really great folks, which I appreciate. The draft presentation, you all had a chance to look at it. I recognize it's pictures and not a lot of context, so I figured we could go through just really quickly what those slides look like. We'll start really with just a recap to kind of level set the city council, and also introduce what this process was for folks that didn't attend the city council meeting last year. So just kind of gonna do that first initial recap for the first couple of slides, talk about how we've gotten to the point that we've gotten to, council and library board approving this study and committing the finance to that. And then, skip. And this is a very, very initial draft. That's why this is, don't look at the data and the information on this graphic yet, because it needs to be updated and fixed. But we want to talk a little bit about the, kind of some of the changes that have happened over the year, or over the years since the building opened in 1995, and how the population also is continuing to grow, especially right around downtown. There will be a lot of growth happening, as well as the larger community. And then highlighting some of the space challenges in a couple of the spaces. Two spaces in particular, our first floor meeting room and our what used to be the old computer lab on the second floor. Those two spaces, or what used to be meeting room A, now needs to be used for storage. So two spaces have come offline just in the last, so a second space that wasn't offline when we presented to city council last year. We again have more staff than we did in 1995, and we're struggling with staff spaces. So a smaller conference room up in the administration area was converted to provide space for people to work. And that old computer lab was converted into that staff conference area. The next slide, we'll talk a little bit about just summarizing the questions. These were specific questions, themes that City Council asked at the last meeting. These were almost direct quotes from City Council members about, what does the community need? What innovations should we be tapping into? Which again led us more into this study path. Some of the unknowns that we still have is the 20.
Can you go back one?
Yes,
for a second?
please.
Sorry. As I just read through it here, the bottom two questions,
Yes.
I don't like how do digital sources impact that? Because that makes me worry that they will hear, oh, we can just provide more electronic resources and then we don't have a space problem.
Yeah.
Right? So maybe as the community grows, something about how do we integrate digital resources? Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, I hear what you're saying.
Because we don't have to bring up the 1929 McCluskey study. And then how can innovations, maybe emerging technologies or emerging services? So, I don't know.
emerging technologies instead of innovations.
Or emerging services, I don't know. I don't have a good answer, but I think innovations might seem too trite.
Might seem like we're building a smart car on
Yeah.
our own.
We still have time.
And, you know, well, we could just have AI generated today, because that's been working so well for Google this week.
Yeah. And that's what's important.
Yeah, totally.
So, I mean, we have time to play around with the wording.
Yes.
Yeah,
that's-
absolutely, I appreciate that. Any other thoughts on that?
I would agree.
The next thing we want to highlight is we like to touch back to this community survey. This is what city council uses in a lot of their decision making. This community survey was done in 2022. There will be another version, I want to say later this year or early next year. Again, this shows that overall the rating for library services at 90%, but there were differences by ward. So we had folks. There were 11% difference between Ward 6 and Ward 4, so that's pretty significant. And again, led us a lot to down the path to doing this comprehensive
Where's
study.
Ward 6?
I should know this. Ward 6 is Northwest is 3. They're not like in a nice way that makes sense.
There's a map up on the there's a map up on the second floor.
I want to say it's northeast, or no, it is
Ward 5.
Elton Hills.
Elgin Hills.
Elton Hills.
It's odd that they're just, that it's that different,
Yeah,
you know?
absolutely.
Ward 6 is Elton Hills.
Isn't it?
Is that the council member Dennis ward?
I believe so.
Okay.
I'm 90% sure.
Yeah. Oh, that's surprising.
Don't quote me on this, and we will have a map.
37th Street in that area. So, yeah, Ward 3 is northeast, or no, yeah, northwest, excuse me. I can't.
I'm hearing a map will be incredibly important. And we will add,
Sorry.
no, this is exactly,
It's
That's
just
exactly
interesting, like, because somebody's gonna ask
why?
me, why,
We don't know.
So we want to know.
And that's what we want to know.
You know,
Yeah.
that area has a lot of retiree, elder population. If that's relevant, who knows?
yeah, but I would have some insights when somebody asks to say, these might be some of our thoughts, but we'd like to, you know, we're hoping this work will help further illuminate those concerns.
Well, and I think in the next slide, we do show by census tract, the cardholder saturation. So you see where the population growth is happening. And then you see that market penetration by census tract and how they are different even by census tract. And again, we don't have all of the answers as to why, and that's why this study is really important. The next slide, we touch in with the book box where we had data with the census tracts that had lower market saturation rates and added the book box into that space. The cardholder saturation rate increased, but it's not, we're unsure if residents are then coming and using the main library or if they're getting all of their needs met by a vending machine. Only 1,000 items checked out for all of last year. So,
No, so what about 5 months? How many months was that?
started in April,
In
I
April,
think is when
oh,
we had the
so-
kickoff, so it was
okay.
pretty,
Yeah.
yeah. So, it's fewer than I think I expected, so. And then I know the next slide, we want to do some modeling of what we think with the population growth, with previous history, the trends that we've seen in the last 5 years, what that might look like as far as an impact on visits or staff, or open hours is one that we might actually look at as well, so. So that more data coming there. I do think it's important to again highlight that 2018 won the national medal. We were, recognized for equity, providing welcoming spaces, but we do still have those challenging spaces, and even getting into our building is not welcoming, it's not accessible. We do have lots of feedback from customers on that piece. And then some more things that we know, we are still committed to providing that excellent service, but we still have those space constraints that does impact what we can and cannot offer, and we have less capacity for program partnerships, and so we're really, we aren't able to do more than what we did in 2018. We are in a position to do less than what we did in 2018. The next slide, we're really unsure if the entire customer experience is meeting expectations for all community members. We do know that we have those challenges again in the physical spaces, and also recognize that there are trends and innovations happening in other libraries. Library of Things, for example, is very, and has been a big thing for a long time in libraries, and that's not something that we have the capacity to offer in any way. Other libraries have dedicated maker spaces, collaborative, like co-working spaces, co-location of services. So highlighting some of those.
I wish the library had a playground.
Oh. And then some benchmarking. We do have some comparison data that we have pulled together based on Public Library Association does lump us together in a peer group based on similar demographic data like education and race. And then also they try to stick to region when they're lumping you together in a peer group. The peer group that we're in is peer group 10, and there are 144 libraries in that group. And that ranges from a library that serves a population of 1,094 all the way up to, I can't remember what the largest one is. So it is a very wide and broad group. When we take that list of 144 and we narrow it down just to libraries that serve, the smallest is Duluth at 86,000, and then the largest is 311,000. So we have more of a comparable service area than we have some comparisons, but again, we would like better benchmarking comparisons. Who should we be comparing ourselves to say that we are being really successful in meeting our community needs?
The hours/year, that refers to what exactly?
Hours open, and of course, if you have branches, then you have more
Oh,
hours
I see.
open.
That's the
what-
difference.
That's where you
Okay.
get these large,
Because I was
ridiculous
looking at that
numbers.
drop from 20,000 to 2,000 for us. So
Yeah.
that's why, okay.
Can I cause more for you, or at least?
Yes, please.
Shocking, but I would.
I expect nothing less.
I would try to go through that list of 144 and then slice it in a couple of different ways
Okay.
to the 10 that are closest to you, because people like 10. I don't know, they want to know, like, on the continuum, how do we compare to, are we number 8 in?
Okay.
And I would look at other libraries within that group that only have a central library that are branchless, right? Because I think otherwise the hours comparison is so skewed, it's not helpful. But I think that might be helpful in that particular case, right? And then also look at just straight up by population, right? So who's closest to us population, and then how do we compare? And those would be probably the easiest ways to slice them. And I'd probably argue you could do central library, no branches, and then a bookmobile, because that's relatively similar to us. If you can
Yeah.
get 10 in each category.
It's really small. It's a really small sample. It might need to be, it might provide something less than you're expecting, but I will get that for our next planning committee.
I just
meeting.
think that would be, because that'll also show the city that, hey, we're really trying to look at this. We're trying to slice this in as many different ways to compare
Yeah.
the data.
Finding other communities with one location and bookmobile is very rare.
They may not
in
exist,
population
but,
size.
you know.
But I actually have, I have that, the non-peer,
Oh, you might have to go out
to
to your peer
broaden,
to-
I have the
Okay,
non-peer data.
so, yeah.
But we can do that.
And just like, and since I'm being difficult, can you go back a slide? We're unsure. I would say something like, we have our anecdotal evidence or our staff impressions are, don't just say we're,
Okay.
We're not just throwing a dart at the board. We have a
Yeah.
rational reason for why we're doing what we're doing. Does that make sense?
No, that does.
Sorry,
No, this is exactly why we're doing this.
that's why they're so thrilled they don't actually work for me.
Other thoughts? All right, and then after this slide, what we hope to end up with is this facilities and operations master plan that would be comprehensive and visionary, give us 5 to 10 years, a phased approach, and that aligns with both city council strategic priorities and the library strategic plan. And then the last slides go over the pieces that really come from the RFP document, the expected process that we're looking for, co-design, community engaged, including all the cultural accessibility and equity throughout the process, benchmark data, the needs assessment section. In this next slide, we're looking at exactly what we want evaluated, how we want things compared, and include a review of current city plans to look for opportunities for collaboration, and then exploring or identifying our key service areas, and then how we can meet community needs and expectations for exceptional service, and then also the challenges and barriers that we currently have. And then we're also wanting some reports and recommendations, obviously the final master plan, and then an analysis of our current facility, so this whole physical structure of our bookmobile service and the book box service, an analysis of our of the current library services and trends, and also benchmarked alongside other libraries, some recommendations for future solutions, phased implementation plans, and then we'll of course want them to present to stakeholders, both library board and city council, and then some any additional recommendations they might have for the communications or assessment piece for us. And then the last slide will really be an opportunity, again, since it's a study session, for city council to freely provide their feedback and thoughts and questions on what they're hoping.
That's probably where we're gonna get the most inclusion.
Book box, launching community IDs, which officially launched out in the community. They can be printed now. They are accessible. Also on here, our privacy audit continues throughout the library. We are continuing to explore using more data and tools, and how we might better use data that we have when looking at our programs and services. Continuing our partnership with Olmsted County, offering social access to a social worker, and that's been going really well. Once a week up on the second floor. Next page. Doing our catalog improvements, working towards data-informed collection development. Each division has been working on their own collection development plans and really codifying what it is we do and how we manage each of our 3 major collections. And then the big one is evaluating this, what we just talked about, our current physical and digital infrastructure to identify opportunities for some improvements. And that's the last. And space needs, and then our Chromebooks. the grant will wrap up officially, so we'll be doing that grant reporting later this year, so. Any questions?
All right, thank you.
All right.
And now we get to the question and answer part of the meeting. Does anybody have any questions?
We did have one last thing that, and it was actually kind of part of our action plan, but the library safety and security position.
Oh, yes, go ahead.
Just wanted to give you an update. We should be posting that maybe even as soon as tomorrow. Really excited that we'll be able to get that position hired, so.
All right, any questions on anything? All right, so I'll ask for a motion to adjourn, and then we will go into executive session as per the agenda.
So moved.
Is there a second? Moved and seconded, all in favor, say aye. Opposed? Okay. Meeting, regular meeting is adjourned.
All right. And just an FYI, because we did get notice on this, the